Welcome. We are here with you under the same quiet sky. Let the shoulders drop a little as the breath settles into an easy rhythm, in through the nose, out through the mouth. If these calm explorations help you drift or spark a soft curiosity, you can like and subscribe so we meet again on another quiet night. We begin with the air itself, the thinnest veil that still does so much. Our atmosphere rises only a few dozen kilometers above most land, light and transparent, and yet it softens the heat of day and tucks the planet in at night. We live inside this delicate blanket of gases, and it is enough. While we speak, notice a slower inhale and a longer exhale, as if we too are part of this breathing world. Across that veil runs a daily rhythm we can almost set a clock by. Temperatures often reach their lowest just before dawn, when the ground has given back most of yesterday's warmth. A few hours after midday, the highest values usually arrive because the surface keeps absorbing sunlight even as the sun begins to descend. This gentle lag is the planet's way of smoothing edges, and it invites us to smooth our own, relaxing the jaw and letting the eyes grow heavy. Near the edge of the sea, air adds another layer to the rhythm. By day, a breeze often drifts from the cool water toward the warm land. By night, the land cools more quickly than the sea, and the flow reverses, slipping back toward the water. This back and forth is so steady that shorelines hum with it, a quiet pendulum of comfort. We may not hear it, but our skin knows, and our breath answers with an easy sway. In the wet tropics, the pattern grows taller and brighter. Mornings can open in clean blue, then warm rising air builds gentle towers of cloud, and by late afternoon, many places welcome brief, generous showers and evening thunder far away. The night returns to starlight and chorus, and the cycle begins again at first light. Between those steps, we can pause and feel our own cycles of effort and rest, allowing the chest to soften and the shoulders to melt downward. Pressure, the weight of the air above us, moves in simple signs we can learn to read without strain. When pressure rises, the sky often steadies and clears, and winds calm into dependable patterns. When it falls, clouds tend to grow livelier and showers more likely, as if the atmosphere loosens its grip and lets motions blossom. Nothing abrupt is needed here. We notice, we nod, we keep breathing. From the warmed ground, invisible elevators of air lift into the sky. These rising currents, often called thermals, begin wherever the sun gently heats a field, a parking lot, a hillside. They are strong enough to carry light seeds, tiny feathers, and the wide wings of soaring birds, all spiraling upward in patient circles. If we listen for a moment, we can imagine that spiral inside the breath. A comfortable rise, a slow turn, a soft descent. On quiet nights with clear skies, the air near the ground may cool until water vapor condenses into a cloud that meets us at eye level. That is fog, not a different creature, just a cloud that has come down to the grass and the river and the street. It forms most easily when wind is weak and temperatures slip to the dew point, and it blunts sound into a hush that belongs to the small hours. As fog wraps the world, we can let a similar wrap settle over the body, heavier with each exhale. Even without fog, the same cooling paints each blade of grass. When a surface gives off heat faster than the air above, tiny beads of water appear by morning, each one a lens holding the low sun. Dew is simple and generous, a sign that the night was calm and the sky most likely clear. To notice a line of dewdrops is to feel time slow, the way your breathing slows when you remember you do not have to hurry. Wind barely felt on the ear can still change how we experience warmth. A light breeze of about 1 to 2 meters per second is often all it takes to sweep away the thin layer of air hugging our skin, the layer that traps our own heat. The air then feels fresher, even if the temperature has not changed much at all. This is why a slow fan helps on a still evening and why an open window can coax sleep. Let the breath follow that breeze outward, long and easy. Step back and the atmosphere reveals its greatest kindness. It softens extremes. Without the air's mixture of gases, dust, and clouds, deserts by day would scorch far higher, and nights in many places would plunge far lower. Instead, radiated heat is absorbed and re-emitted, shared and traded, and the planet lives closer to the middle path. We too can choose the middle path now, meeting the next inhalation only halfway and letting the exhale lengthen a little more. Thin clouds at night are part of that sharing. A light overcast can act like a blanket, catching some of the heat leaving the ground and returning it downward. So dawn arrives a touch milder. Under such skies, the first birds begin a little earlier. Frost forms less often, and roofs and fields wake with fewer sharp edges. If you are resting under a similar blanket, feel how the body welcomes the idea of retained warmth, without effort, without strain. Climb into mountains and the tempo quickens. With every kilometer upward, the air is usually about 6 to 7 degrees Celsius colder, and that change nudges clouds and winds into faster turns. Valleys can hold cold pools at night, while ridges feel a soft breeze. Afternoons may conjure brief showers that slide away by evening. In high places, weather is a teacher of patience, and patience is what our breath is practicing now, steady and slow. Return to the shore and the sea steadies the hand again. Water gives back the day's heat slowly, so coasts often avoid the highest spikes of heat and the deepest dips of cold. That slow pulse turns seasons into long sighs, spring arriving gently and autumn lingering, as if the ocean remembers and shares. We can borrow a little of that memory and let the muscles remember unclenching. Sometimes when the great traveling boundaries between air masses, the fronts pass far from us, the weather seems to pause. The same clouds drift over for days. The same breeze visits each afternoon. The same clear night returns again and again. Stability can be a lullaby, not empty at all, just consistent enough that the mind can set the world down. With consistency, sleep often comes closer. We greet it the way we greet a familiar friend. Even what we call calm is not empty motion. After sunset on gentle slopes, cooler air settles and slides downslope in thin, quiet rivers, pooling in fields and creek beds. Near dawn, a reverse flow sometimes begins, faint and uphill, helping fog lift and leaves stir. These are not the winds that bend trees. They are the whispers that balance a landscape. As we notice them in imagination, we can let the spine soften and the hands grow still. All these pieces talk to one another. The daily rise and fall of temperature drives tiny winds. Those winds shape cloud edges. The clouds tune the amount of warmth returning to ground. The ground, in turn, sends up the next day's currents. Pressure nudges the patterns and the sea smooths them. Hills and valleys add small corrections here and there. Together they compose the weather you feel on your face when you step outside and pause for a breath. When we align with those cycles, the mind often quiets. We do not need perfect knowledge to sense that a rising pressure may bring a clearer afternoon, or that a late evening halo around the moon often hints at higher clouds and a softer dawn. We simply check the sky, notice the breeze on the skin, and let the day explain itself in small, reliable phrases. While we listen, we breathe, and the body grows heavier against the bed or the chair. On some nights, thick air and light wind make sound carry less sharply, and the world becomes small and safe. On others, the first cool draft before a shower arrives is enough to ease the heat from a room without touching a switch. Most changes are gentle in their beginnings, and our attention can be gentle too, like a palm placed lightly on a tabletop. In this calm, curiosity stays awake while worry lies down. If morning brings dew, we know the night was clear. If the grass is dry and the air warm already at dawn, we guess that clouds or a breeze kept warmth moving. Neither is a promise, but each is a clue, and the clues add up to a feeling of belonging on this planet of patient cycles. Belonging quiets the breath by itself, like a tide that finds its level. So we return to where we started, beneath the thin but generous veil of air. It holds enough warmth to keep us through the darkness, carries enough wind to smooth the day, and makes room for clouds that act as pillows, curtains, and quilts. We can trust that while we rest, the atmosphere continues its careful work, sharing heat, trading moisture, guiding breezes toward open windows and across sleeping rooms. If you are ready, let the next breath in be quiet and the breath out be just a little longer. Feel the weight of your body supported, the space around you steady, the night outside moving only in slow, soft currents. We are with you under the same sky, and the sky is kind. When you wish, close your eyes, the air will keep watch. Welcome, we are here with you under the same wide sky. Let the breath slow without effort, in through the nose, out through the mouth as shoulders soften. If this quiet journey through clouds brings you ease or a small spark of wonder, you can like and subscribe so we meet again on another gentle night. We begin high, where the air is thin and the light is clean. Feather-like ice clouds drift 8 to 12 kilometers above us, so delicate that sunlight slips through and around their tiny crystals. When those crystals align just right, faint rings and soft halos bloom around the sun by day and around the moon by night, a subtle crown woven from cold light. While we picture that pale circle, we take an easy inhale and feel the next exhale grow longer. Lower down, sheets of cloud sometimes spread from horizon to horizon like a calm blanket. These layered fields are the steady workers of the sky, dimming harsh glare, evening the day into one tone, and often bringing long, quiet rain that can last hour after hour without drama. Under such a uniform roof, the world hushes and sounds arrive from nearer places. Between one breath and the next, we notice how evenness invites rest. When the ground warms through the morning, puffs of cloud can rise as if lifted by the day itself. Small towers grow where rising air feeds them, turning puffs into cottony stacks that mark the sky with friendly shapes. Toward evening, these towers often loosen and drift apart, their edges fraying into soft scraps, the way a day exhales and puts its tools away. As they thin, we mark a slow inhale and a softer, heavier outbreath. Over mountains, another story unfolds, smooth and precise. When fast winds climb a ridge and then sink again, the air can set into gentle standing waves, and just where an invisible crest holds steady, smooth lens-shaped clouds appear. They hover without rushing downstream, as if they are stones in a river of air, fixed even while wind roars through them. Looking up at a stack of these quiet disks, we feel how stillness can exist inside motion. Sometimes the sky seems to grow a dappled underside. Soft, pouch-like shapes hang from a cloud base, heavy to the eye, yet weightless in truth. They often form when air above the cloud is stirred and uneven, and the pattern hangs like a quilt of rounded pockets. The sight can look dramatic, and yet it is simply texture written by turbulence and light, a reminder that complexity can be gentle. As we linger with it, we let the chest loosen and the neck rest. On rare days, the wind draws curls so crisp they look like waves about to break. Along a shared boundary where faster air glides over slower air, the top rolls forward and the bottom folds under, carving a row of sky waves with crests that resemble ocean breakers. They pass quickly and do not last, but for a few minutes they can be hypnotic, an elegant trace of motion cut into cloud. We watch in imagination and we breathe as if rocked by a calm tide. Far above even the highest storm, the summer twilight sometimes reveals ghostly veils that shine with their own cold silver. These night-shining clouds live in the upper atmosphere, more than 70 kilometers overhead, so high that the sun still touches them long after our ground is in shadow. They form when tiny ice grains gather around the thinnest dust, and they glow with a pale, shifting texture like frost on glass. Picture that distant silver and feel the body grow just a bit heavier where it rests. Closer to the horizon, a different kind of softness appears. Distant hills often wear a blue tint, and faraway cities fade into a bluish haze. The air between us and those far scenes scatters the shorter parts of daylight, and tiny particles spread that blue more than other shades, so distance turns to a gentle wash. This is why far mountains look like memories and why space itself can feel like padding between you and the world's edges. Between thoughts, we notice a gentle space within the breath as well. At night, when thin cloud or a moist halo of air surrounds the moon, faint colored rings can appear. These crowns come from light bending slightly around many small droplets or tiny ice crystals, each acting like a miniature obstacle that spreads the light into soft, concentric bands. The colors are delicate and can vanish when the sky brightens, a quiet secret of clear, clean air. The eye lingers and the mind follows into stillness. In winter cold, ice crystals in the air sometimes mimic small plates and tiny columns. When sunlight enters and leaves these crystals at particular angles, bright companion spots can appear to the left and right of the sun, with a pale arc linking them across the sky. People call them sun dogs, faithful attendants to the low, wintry sun, and they stand still while thin snow glitter swirls. We picture those bright points and let our shoulders drop a little further. A bow of color also holds to rain, and yet the bow is more than a bow. A rainbow is truly a circle of light, centered on the line between the sun and the eye, though the ground usually hides the lower part from us. From the window of an airplane or beside a waterfall seen from above, the ring can close into a full wreath. Knowing this circle exists does not change the comfort of a simple arc. It deepens it, reminding us that more is present than we can see at once. Sometimes rain begins in a cloud but never reaches the ground. Streaks hang below the base like fine threads, fading as they fall through drier air and evaporate away. From a distance, these trails draw soft curtains under a cloud, a sign that the air below is thirsty and warm enough to drink the drops mid-flight. The image of those hanging threads feels like fringe on a shawl, and our breath moves easily beneath it. Another delicate ring appears when we stand above a sea of mist with the sun behind us. If the light shines onto the fog or a bright cloud where our shadow falls, a small, faintly colored halo can form around the place where our outline touches the white. This is the glory, a quiet wreath that seems to belong to whoever is looking, and many walkers on high ridges have seen their own small crown without expecting it. The surprise is tender and private, and in recalling it, we let the jaw unclench. When droplets are extremely small, their scattering spreads colors until they overlap and wash together. Then a rainbow can appear almost white, a pale bow with hints of gray and cream where we expect red and violet. People call it a fog bow, and it belongs to calm days with fine mist and gentle light. It is as if the sky chose to whisper instead of sing. Listening to that whisper, we pause and feel the exhale lengthen again. Even shadows join the cloud story. As the sun moves and clouds drift, their shadows slide over fields, hills, and water with a speed that can be faster than the wind that carries them. It is the motion of light as much as air, painting and repainting the day in wide strokes. Watching those shadows leap across a valley is like watching time, yet it steadies us. It says the world keeps its rhythm and we can rest inside it. Each of these forms answers to simple ingredients: moisture, motion, temperature, and light. Thin ice high above bends light into circles and spots. Layered sheets bring long, even rain. Rising warmth grow towers that sigh apart at dusk. Mountain waves sculpt smooth discs. Small eddies carve pouches. Rare rolling boundaries curl into sea like crests. High summer twilight can turn dust and ice into silver veils, while near-ground haze brushes distance with blue. The sky is patient with its patterns, and we are patient with our breath. We notice, too, how gentle hints can help us read the sky without strain. A ring around the moon can suggest a passing veil of ice above, and sometimes a change in the air within a day or two. Companion lights beside a low sun tell us tiny crystals drift through the air, which explains the clean glitter we feel on the face. Streaks of rain that fade before touching ground hint at dry, warm layers below, so the air will feel soft and not chilly. These are not rules, only quiet clues, and clues often soothe the mind. Clouds are not only shapes, they are blankets that temper heat and soften brightness. A thin cover at night can hold warmth near the surface, making dawn milder. A higher, thin veil by day can take the edge off harsh sun, easing glare and letting colors breathe. On days with layered cloud and slow rain, the world narrows to near distances, a safe room the size of your street or field. In that room, the body often understands that it can let go. Meanwhile, the eye follows textures the way a hand follows fabric. The long combed strands of high ice look like brushed silk. The even gray of a low sheet feels like felt. The tender mounds of afternoon towers feel like cotton batting pulling apart at the seams. The mind names these textures without fuss, and the breath moves in time with them. In that small alignment, rest finds us instead of the other way around. Even rare sights find a place in this calm. The breaking wave pattern is uncommon, but knowing it exists lets you glance at a picture and smile at the sky, learning from the sea. The pale ring around your shadow on fog is easy to miss, but the memory of seeing it once can stand in for the sight, a pocketful of light to take out on a gray day. Night shining veils belong to short summer windows, yet the fact that the sun still reaches them when it has left us gives comfort on long evenings. Every rarity promises that the sky keeps small surprises in a gentle hand, so we return to you, lying or sitting under whatever roof you have tonight. We imagine a thin ice halo far above, a layered blanket lower down, perhaps a quiet field of puffs that will loosen by dusk. We trust that shadows will move, light will soften, and distance will turn blue at the edges, because the air knows this dance by heart. While we rest, clouds will go on dressing and undressing the sky, and light will go on learning how to pass through and how to linger. If you are ready, let the next inhalation be a little slower, and let the following exhale sink you deeper into the support beneath you. The room is steady, the night is kind, and the sky is folding its quilts with patient hands. We are with you here, and the weather will keep its watch. When you wish, you can close your eyes and drift. The clouds can carry the rest of the story. Welcome, we are here with you in the hush, before weather begins its song. Let the breath arrive gently, in through the nose and out through the mouth, while the jaw loosens and the shoulders soften. If this calm, rainy journey brings you ease, you can like and subscribe so we meet again on a quiet night like this. We begin with the scent that often walks ahead of rain, the soft, earthy promise that turns a street or a field into memory. That fragrance has a name, and it often comes from plant oils and a soil note released by tiny living things. The first scattered drops lift those molecules into the air and carry them to you. Sometimes a faint, clean sharpness joins in, when distant lightning splits oxygen and leaves a trace of ozone. As we notice the layered smell, we let the next exhale lengthen and feel the weight of the day settle downward. Drizzle writes the first line of the score in small, even strokes. Each droplet is smaller than about 1/2 millimeter across, so light that it drifts rather than falls, landing without hurry. The sound is almost not a sound at all, more a soft ticking on leaves and sleeves, the kind of texture the ear treats as background while the mind unwinds. Between one breath and the next, we can sense how the body eases into this steadiness. Raindrops themselves are not the teardrops we see in drawings. As they fall, air presses on their underside and rounds them, so they become nearly spherical with a slight flattening at the bottom, like tiny pancakes made of water. Very large drops can wobble and break into smaller ones, and their patter changes with size and speed. So a tin roof and a window ledge play different notes from the same sky. We listen for these differences the way we notice the rise and fall of our own breathing. When a summer shower sweeps through warm streets, the air often evens out. Falling water steals extra heat through gentle evaporation, and the ground sheds some of its stored warmth into the fresh, moist air. The result can feel like a sigh of relief, a lowering of invisible edges that were pressing on the skin. While we imagine wet pavement darkening to a deep gray, we allow the shoulders to drop a little further. Sometimes the sky sends weather that looks like small beads hopping on a windowsill. These soft pellets are graupel, snowflakes that have been coated by supercooled droplets until their delicate arms are rimed into rounded grains. They bounce with a quiet rattle, neither hail nor snow, a middle voice that often lasts only a few minutes during a passing shower. The ear recognizes the difference without strain, and the mind follows it into gentler ground. Snow has its own way of changing the room around us. Fresh snow is a light lattice with countless tiny pockets of air, and those microcavities trap sound and turn sharp edges of noise into soft contours. Streets sound farther away, voices turn muted, and even the wind seems to move more slowly across a field. While we picture a yard or a hillside turning white, we breathe in evenly and let the out-breath grow heavy and calm. Look close at a single flake and we often find six-fold symmetry, a quiet echo of the way water molecules arrange themselves in ice at the temperatures we know best. Even so, the pathways through cloud and air vary so much that forming two flakes with exactly the same pattern would be rare. Each crystal tells a brief story of humidity and temperature as it fell and grew, and together they stitch a blanket that speaks softly underfoot. The whole drift becomes a choir of unique, calm voices. Not all frozen rain arrives frozen. In certain winter storms, drops can remain liquid below the freezing point while they fall, chilled but not yet turned to ice. When those supercooled drops reach a branch or a wire, they flash into a glassy coat that thickens with each new drop, building a clear shell around everything it touches. After such a storm, the world hums with tiny, brittle sounds, and the morning light finds 1,000 edges to catch. We picture that glass garden and let the neck and forehead smooth out. Frost makes art on quiet mornings without a brush. Warm indoor air carries water vapor that meets a cold window pane, and there the vapor settles straight into ice. The pattern spreads along faint scratches and small grains in the glass, branching like ferns and feathers guided by temperature and chance. We trace those lines with the eye and feel how the breath finds a slower rhythm. On trees and fences, a similar whiteness can build in certain fogs. When tiny droplets in cold air touch a surface chilled by the night, they can freeze into soft crystals, painting twigs and grass with a chalky coat. This hoarfrost gives a gray field a pastel glow, as if the day has been drawn in white pencil over every outline. The world looks softened and our muscles take the hint. Far away from winter, brief tropical downpours play a different song. Warm air heaps up moisture through the morning, towers of cloud rise, and then a sudden dense shower turns streets into mirrors. The burst can pass quickly, the heat carried upward and outward, so the quiet returns as fast as it fled. The city feels rinsed and lighter, and we notice that our own breath can rinse the mind in the same way. In mountains and deep drifts, snow can glow a shade of blue when we look into thick layers or through compacted blocks. This is not dye, but light itself at work. The longer, redder parts of daylight are absorbed more as they travel through the ice, while the shorter, bluer parts scatter back to us. The effect is subtle and serene, a cool tone added to the winter palette. While we picture that calm color, we let the chest loosen again. Sometimes the sky hesitates between phases, and our ears notice before our eyes do. When the patter turns to a dry, grainy hiss, drops may be cooling into small ice pellets on the way down. In some places, this is called sleet. In others, the same word means a mix of rain and snow, but the sound of tiny beads tapping on umbrellas and hoods is clear either way. That short-lived rattle is a threshold, a punctuation mark the storm writes and then moves past. Wind turns precipitation into choreography. In a blizzard, dry snow lifts and streams, reshaping fences and fields. In summer dust, loose grains fly and settle, rimming leaves and doorsteps. Both are a form of transport, the air moving what it can, where it can, and laying it down in soft lines and scallops. Watching wind rearrange the world is like hearing a quiet drumline under a melody, steady, patient, always there. We listen and we grow heavier in our blankets or in our chair. Beyond these familiar moments, rain writes different melodies on every surface. Broad leaves add a soft, watery applause. Pine needles turn drops into tiny bells. Earth itself speaks in pitched taps that change with how dry the soil was before the storm. A tin awning is bright and quick. A wooden deck is warm and rounded. A pond translates everything into rings that widen and merge without hurry. While we imagine those ripples meeting and smoothing, we let our thoughts do the same. Puddles make their own music and their own drawings. When a drop strikes, a crown leaps up and folds back, and small standing waves spread outward. If wind is still, the pattern repeats and overlaps into a faint shimmer. If wind wanders, crescents and chevrons skate across the surface like handwriting. We can almost read the air in those lines, and we do not need to translate it. We only notice and breathe. On roofs and gutters, flow gathers and organizes. Threads of water find the simplest paths, join into rills, and then become a single clear stream that talks quietly to stone. The pitch of that talk rises and falls with the rate of rain, like a string slowly tuned lower as a shower eases. It is a reminder that weather and music both measure time with patterns, and that rest is part of every measure. When the storm spends its last notes, the world answers back with its own. The wet ground releases a faint mist where cool air meets warmth, and distant traffic returns in softened tones. Birds often wait for the thickest rain to pass, and then shake their feathers and test the air, offering a few careful calls. In that pause after the main movement, we find the kind of silence that does not need us to fill it. Sometimes the sky seems to rain without rain. In dry air beneath a cloud, falling drops can evaporate before they touch the ground, and we see long, pale curtains hang below the cloud base and fade into nothing. This is Virga, a sign that moisture is on the edge of arriving, a mid-air rehearsal for a performance that might be delayed. The sight is gentle and a little wistful, and it invites us to let go of urgency as well. Hail belongs to stronger storms, but even it has a range of voices. Small stones can tap like thrown rice. Larger ones strike sharply and then settle into a hush when the shaft moves on. Inside towering clouds, these stones loop through updrafts and downdrafts, adding layers of ice until their own weight wins and gravity brings them down. We remember that every fast sound still belongs to the same slow system of sky, and that thought steadies the breath. Mist and fog bring the quietest measure of all. The finest droplets hang in the air itself, and sound travels through this thickened medium differently, carrying near details and hiding far ones. Streetlights wear soft halos, and steps on wet pavement feel both closer and slower. We are given permission to narrow our world to the few meters around us, and to the simple act of breathing in and breathing out, and then there is the rhythm of stopping. Drizzle fades to a memory on the fingertips. Rush becomes patter, patter becomes silence. Water gathers at eaves and lets go now and then, in single drops that strike with a small, perfect note and then wait. In that cadence, our own heart finds company, and our eyelids grow heavier with each pause. Tonight, we hold all these quiet instruments together. The earth smell lifted by first drops, the nearly silent brush of drizzle, the rounded shape of falling water, and the way summer rain erases extra heat. We keep Gropal's light tapping, snow's muffling blanket, the clear armor of freezing rain, and the fern-like sketches of frost. We add the pastel coat of hoarfrost in fog, the rinse of tropical showers, the blue singing through deep snow, and the dry hiss of small ice. We listen to wind moving snow and dust, to puddles crowning with rings, to gutters tuning their strings, to virgas hanging threads, to the dim bells of fog. If you wish, let the next inhalation be easy, and let the next exhale sink you into the bed or chair that holds you. The roof above, real or imagined, is kind. The rain has spoken its piece and the night understands. We will keep watch with you a little longer, and when your eyes wish to close, the weather will go on playing softly without needing you to listen. Welcome to a quiet corner of the night where air itself feels like a lullaby. We arrive together with a slow inhale and an easy exhale, shoulders soft, jaw unknotted. If this calm voyage through moving air feels good to you, you can like and subscribe so we can share more restful nights ahead. We begin with the steady trade winds, those faithful currents that circle the belts of the tropics. They blow with a dependable rhythm, a long, even stride that once carried sails across oceans and today guides cloud streets over warm water. Their constancy comes from the simple balance of warm air rising near the equator and cooler air returning aloft, a grand wheel turning day after day. As we picture broad bands of wind combing the sea, we notice our own breath finding a band of steadiness too. Near the equator lies a different mood, a zone of calms where the surface air often pauses. Warm, moisture-laden air rises more than it races, and at the ground, the wind may falter into a hush that can feel humid and still. Here, clouds tower upward while the ocean barely ruffles, and time seems to slow until those clouds release their rain and the air rearranges. Between one breath and the next, we let our pace slow in the same way. Along coasts, daily winds keep time with sunlight and shadow. As land warms through the morning, air over the beach rises and cooler air from the water flows in to replace it, a gentle sea breeze arriving like a cool hand on a warm forehead. At night, the pattern reverses as land cools quickly and air slides seaward in a light land breeze that smells of pine, stone, and sleep. We follow this quiet seesaw with an inhale and an exhale, steady and calm. Mountains add their own chapter. In daylight, slopes heat up and coax air to climb. creating upslope breezes that thread along ridges and carry scents of resin and sun-warmed soil. After nightfall, chilled air becomes dense and drifts back down gullies and riverbeds in downslope flows, collecting in valleys like a lake of coolness. These local winds are simple and regular, a heartbeat of terrain. While we imagine them, we let the body grow heavier where it rests. Sometimes the wind crosses a mountain and changes character in a single journey. On the windy side, air rises and sheds moisture as cloud and rain. On the lee side, it descends, dries, and warms, arriving as a mild, clear wind that can soften a winter afternoon within a few hours. In many regions, this downslope warming is well known and often welcome. The kind of wind that melts a crust of snow and sends icicles shrinking. The change is quick but gentle, and we allow our own thoughts to melt away in the same calm. Other winds arrive bright and brisk, sweeping the sky clean. In certain valleys and passes, dense, cold air can spill toward the sea with a clear, crystalline feel, scrubbing haze from the horizon and sharpening far ridgelines. These winds may sting the cheeks, yet they leave the day looking new, as if the world has been washed. We hold that clean distance in mind and breathe a little deeper, like looking through freshly polished glass. High above, far out of reach, a swift river of air meanders around the planet. This jet, narrow and quick, bends weather into arcs and nudges storm tracks along their routes across continents. Planes sometimes hitch a ride, and the clouds below often reveal its course in long streaks and commas. We cannot feel it on our face, but we can picture it carving lines in the upper blue while our pulse slows into a smooth, even line of its own. The sky itself can tell us what the wind is doing. When air speeds up, it can tear large clouds into delicate feathers high above, or into tatters that drift and reform. When air settles into a gentler pace, broad layers appear, smooth and even, like sheets laid across the sky. We read the ceiling the way we might read ripples on a pond, not to predict, only to notice. With each noticing comes another softening of the shoulders, another release of the jaw. On the ground, wind writes its diary in sand and snow. Ripples gather into small dunes, their gentle slopes facing the upwind side, and their steeper faces trailing downwind, a quiet record of direction and strength. In winter fields, snow makes its own dunes, low and pale, migrating grain by grain with each gust until a fence or a hedge asks it to stop. We imagine these slow forms traveling a little each day, and we let our thoughts travel only as far as the next calming breath. The forest turns gusts into murmurs. Tree crowns catch the push and break it into smaller sways, leaves rub and whisper, and what could be a rush becomes a hush. Under branches, the air moves, but it does not insist, and the floor feels still even while the canopy breathes. We borrow that shelter for a moment and allow the muscles around the eyes to ease. Over lakes and bays, the first touch of a breeze shows itself as dark patches skittering across the surface. Sailors sometimes call them cat's paws, little pads of texture that spread and merge as cooler air slides in. Even before the wind reaches your cheek, the water tells you it is on the way, and the sharpness of heat begins to fade. In the space of 2 slow breaths, we imagine those dark patches moving closer and the body welcoming their cool. Before dawn, the ground often rests, and so does the air close to it. Without strong sunlight to stir and mix, the lowest layer evens out, and gusts fade into a soft, uniform drift, if they exist at all. Leaves hang still in this pause between night and day, and even busy cities sound farther away. We rest with them and notice the small, quiet sounds that remain. After rain, winds can relax. Moist air is a little heavier, and the strong contrasts that stirred the morning often smooth into the afternoon. Streets shine, soil darkens, and flags that strained a few hours earlier now lift and fall with lazy rhythm. While we picture raindrops shrinking on a railing, we let our breath even out in the same easy way. Wind is one of the atmosphere's ways of sharing. Heat moves from where there is more to where there is less. Moisture follows paths that air opens for it, and so the planet smooths its own extremes with large, slow exchanges. It is like a blanket being shifted from one side of a bed to the other so that no corner stays cold for long. We can feel held by that motion, part of a home that balances itself while we sleep. Even storms often show a softer face at night. When land and water grow closer in temperature, the sharp contrasts that powered the day's gusts may fade, and the surface calms under the same sky that earlier boiled. Waves shorten, trees stop tossing and start nodding, and the clock of wind ticks more quietly. We listen for that easing and allow our ribs to move with it. Up and down, slow and sure. Across the open ocean, long swell lines mark the memory of distant winds that blew days ago and far away. Even after the local breeze shifts, the swell keeps its course, proof that wind writes in the sea as well as in sand and clouds. Gulls rest on these low-moving hills, as on a gentle escalator rising and falling without effort. We ride with them in imagination, moving while staying still. In cities, alleys funnel and corners curl the air into little eddies that dance and disappear. A strong breeze around tall buildings can break into pockets of calm just a few steps away, like rooms without walls. Sometimes a leaf floats upward between towers on a small spiral of air, and then drifts back to the ground as if the city itself breathed out. We notice how every place has its own small winds, and our breath belongs to our place in the same way. Fields of crops and grass give the wind a soft grip. As blades lean and rise, they trade momentum with the air and turn hard gusts into rolling waves, green versions of the sea's surface. The sound is a low hush with a faint edge, a sound that the ear can follow without effort. We imagine that hush and let our thoughts follow it toward quiet. At the coast, a larger, slower cycle lives in the seasons. In warm months, breezes from the water reach farther inland, easing the afternoon and carrying a salt-clean taste. In cool months, land breezes can be crisper and longer, drawing clear, dry air across dunes and stones. Each season teaches the skin a different version of the same lesson. Wind shares, balances, and soothes. The night holds one more tender scene. On a hill after sunset, a barely felt drift gathers in a hollow, cool and scented with grass. Owls move with it, moths ride it from one patch of flowers to the next, and water vapor settles into a silver sheen on leaves. We are not asked to do anything here. Noticing is enough, and even noticing can soften into drowsiness. Now we collect the threads. We keep the steady trades and the quiet belt of calms, the daily sea and land breezes that breathe with the sun, the upslope and downslope flows that climb and return. We hold the warm, dry winds that melt snow and the bright, cold winds that polish the horizon. We picture the swift river of air high above, the way clouds sketch speed and gentleness, the dunes and snow ripples that remember direction. We walk through forests that turn rush into whisper, watch cat's paws pad across water, and feel the pre-dawn stillness settle. We pass the soft winds after rain, the balancing blanket that wind always is, the evening gentling of storms, and the tiny spirals that live among buildings and hedges. If you like, you can notice one more slow inhale and one longer exhale, as if the world itself breathes with you. The windows are closed or open just enough, and the air that reaches you now is kind. Winds travel the planet to smooth its edges, and tonight they have nothing urgent to say. We keep you company while you drift, and when your eyes close, the moving air will go on quietly, sharing warmth and cool across land and sea, as steady as sleep. Welcome to a quiet watch beneath a living sky. We settle together with a slow inhale and a longer exhale, shoulders melting away from the ears. If this soft journey through stormlight comforts you, you can like and subscribe so we can return to this hush again. We begin with thunder, not as a strike, but as a voice that grows and fades. It rolls across fields and streets because a very long spark writes a bright line in the air, and the sound stretches as echoes wander around cloud towers and the shapes of hills. What reaches us is a low, layered murmur rather than a single blow. While it passes, we notice our breath passing too, in and out, even and easy. Lightning makes that voice by heating a narrow path of air to tens of thousands of degrees for less than a blink. The air swells outward and then relaxes, and the rushing out and easing back become the rumble we hear as thunder. It is sudden and bright in birth, gentle and long in memory. As we picture that quick flare and slow fade, we let the body sink a little heavier into its pillow. Around the world, storms send out many small signatures of light. On average, the planet hosts around 44 lightning flashes each second, yet each one is only a moment, a thread in a wide and calm rain tapestry. We can picture them scattered over ocean and forest, deserts and cities separated by vast distances, each a brief embroidery in the night. Between those stitches of light, most of the world remains quiet, and so can we. The tops of strong storm clouds often spread into a flat, smooth shape that looks like an anvil resting high in the sky. Winds aloft press the cloud outward into a calm, level roof, even while the heart of the storm breathes and glows below. The contrast is comforting, a ceiling that looks serene above a busy, rain-drawn core. It reminds us that stillness can sit gently on top of movement, and we can allow a layer of stillness to settle over our own thoughts. Sometimes the sky sketches rarer notes above the storm. High in the thin air, faint red shapes called sprites can bloom for a moment, and broader ghostly rings called elves can flash and vanish in the space of a breath. They are too gentle for thunder to carry from such heights, so we see them in silence, a cosmic whisper signed by the storm. We imagine those quiet signatures and feel our jaw loosen, as if the sky sighed and then rested. Distant thunder carries in a different way. Low notes bend around hills and slip across valleys, reaching us as a soft vibration long after higher tones have faded. A faraway storm can sound like a slow cart over an old bridge, an even pulse that does not ask for attention but accepts it if given. While we listen, we can let the breath slow to match the low rhythm. We sometimes count the seconds between a flash and its thunder to guess the distance. About 3 seconds is roughly 1 kilometer of quiet air between you and the path of light, and this simple measure turns waiting into knowing. It is less a calculation and more a soft way to place ourselves within the map of the sky. We can let the counting become a calm metronome, 1, 2, 3, and then a comfortable hush. Rain itself has its own shapes. From a distance, heavy showers can look like gray curtains sliding across the land, yet inside those veils the drops are separate, drifting through pockets of air like beads on thin threads. Between the threads there is room for swallows and leaves to move, for light to find passages and make the gray shimmer. We picture that delicate weaving, and we smooth our breath to match its gentle fall. Sometimes a storm takes on a grand circular order. In the tropics, broad spirals can form with tall walls of cloud and rain turning around a quiet center. In the eye of such a storm, for a short time, the air rests and light returns, a blue bowl surrounded by soft white cliffs. The calm is temporary, yet it is real, a reminder that even within power there can be stillness. We borrow that stillness for a moment, letting shoulders drop a little more. After storms, the world can feel washed and clear. Rain and downdrafts help sweep tiny particles from the air, and horizons sharpen so that far ridges and distant towers come back into view. Cities often breathe easier under this fresh light, like a room after a window is opened. We let that freshness enter our imagination, cool and clean, and notice the chest rise and fall with more room. As a shower drifts aside and the sun leans low, the sky turns into a gentle theater of angles. With the sun behind us and the retreating rain ahead, a rainbow can lift, not as magic but as patiently organized light. Drops act like small prisms, bending and reflecting the sun's rays, so we see colors laid in order. We often watch only the arc, yet we remember that the full shape is a circle, complete and calm, hidden by the ground beneath our feet. When conditions line up just right, a second arc appears outside the first, fainter and reversed. The outer rainbow flips the color order because light inside those drops takes an extra turn, a quiet clue that geometry is at work in every shimmer. These small truths do not demand that we solve them. It is enough to know there is a pattern and to enjoy the view. We rest in that simple knowing the way we rest in a steady breath. Before a summer downpour arrives, we may feel the air change on our skin. A cool breeze flows outward at ground level from beneath the storm's leading edge, a gentle sigh that precedes the scent of rain. It can be the first relief on a hot day, a promise carried ahead of the shower. We let that promise cool our thoughts and soften the forehead. At night, storms far away often speak only with light. We may see silent flickers on the horizon, flashes inside high clouds that bloom and fade without thunder reaching us. Many people call these heat lightning not because the air makes the light, but because warm, hazy evenings make distant storms easy to see and hard to hear. The effect is a lantern show at the edge of awareness, and we can watch it with the same quiet attention we bring to our breath. The scent that rides with the first drops has a story too. Oils from plants and a compound from soil can rise when rain arrives after a dry spell, and the air carries a familiar earthy perfume often called petrichor. It is not just nostalgia, it is small molecules finding a path from ground to nose on the backs of tiny bursting bubbles and gentle splashes. As the scent reaches us, we notice the soothing pattern of inhale and exhale, and we allow memory to rest. Rain can come as fine mist or as bold, heavy drops. Drizzle is made of tiny beads, smaller than 0.5 millimeter across, so light and patient that they can float and drift more than they fall. Showers pour with larger drops that flatten at the bottom as they hurry through the air, their shapes held by the flow around them. Both kinds play their own music on rooftops and leaves, and both can lull the mind into quiet. Hail has softer cousins that arrive as white, frosted pellets. A form called graupel is made when snowflakes collect supercooled droplets that freeze on contact, wrapping the crystal in a coat of rime. These little spheres bounce on windowsills and decks with a sound like dry rice, short and gentle. We imagine them tumbling and settling, and we let our thoughts tumble and settle too. Fresh snow hushes the world. New flakes pile into a blanket full of tiny spaces, and those pores catch and soften sound, turning sharp edges into velvet. Footsteps move inward, engines fade, and even our own voice seems closer to the bone. This quiet is a kind of weather too, and we can lean into it with a longer exhale. No two snow crystals form exactly the same way, though many share the six-fold grace of ice grown in cold air. Temperature and humidity shape each branch as the flake travels through tiny layers of varying conditions. So every path writes a different pattern. We do not need to catalog them. We can simply hold the idea that variety can be calm. With that, the hands loosen and the face softens. Sometimes rain is not ready to reach the ground. We can see thin, falling streaks darken the air beneath a cloud, and then vanish before touching earth as the drops evaporate in a drier layer. This is virga, rain that finishes its journey as vapor, painting the sky with delicate threads that fade as they fall. We watch the threads and let any stray thoughts fade likewise, gently and without effort. When the air is cold at the surface and warm above, clear rain can fall and then freeze on branches and rails, building a smooth shell of ice. The world becomes glassy and bright, a slow chime when the slightest breeze moves a twig. It is a careful time outdoors, and yet it offers a quiet beauty through the window. We receive that beauty at a distance, safe and still, and notice the breath ease. Stormlight brings companions as well. Thin mists can spread a pale, gentle bow with little color because the tiny droplets do not separate the hues strongly. City lamps can halo in a light drizzle, and the moon can wear a soft ring when ice crystals drift high above. These are small ornaments on a quiet evening, and they ask nothing more than a glance. Between flashes and rumbles, we keep returning to the body. We notice that the mattress supports us evenly, that the air in the room is mild, that the rhythm of our breathing has chosen a slow pace. The sky can be busy almost everywhere and still leave us a pocket of calm. We live in that pocket now while the storm writes its bright lines far away. We collect the lessons of this gentle electricity. Thunder is a rolling echo, not a blow. Lightning's heat expands and releases air into sound. Around the globe, many small lights appear each second, yet each is only a moment, surrounded by long stretches of peace. Cloud tops spread into anvils, while rare red sprites and ringed elves bloom, high and quiet. Low notes carry far, and counting the heartbeats of seconds can place a storm at a safe distance. Rain curtains are threads. The eye of a tropical cyclone can rest while the world whirls around it, and fresh air feels new after a storm cleanses it. Rainbows arc as showers depart and the sun lowers, and the second bow flips the colors softly. A cool outflow wind arrives as a promise ahead of summer rain, and distant night storms flash without sound at the horizon. Scents rise, drizzle whispers, grapple patters, snow absorbs, ice coats and glows, and sometimes rain turns back to vapor and fades. If you like, you can take one last unhurried breath, filling only as much as feels kind, and then let it out a little longer than it came in. The windows are sure, the roof is steady, and the sky is doing what it always does, arranging light and sound in patient patterns. We keep you company while you drift. As your eyes grow heavy, storms will continue to thread their silver across far clouds, and the thunder will roll itself thin, leaving only the quiet you rest in now. Welcome to a slow walk through time's weather, where the year turns like a quiet wheel. We breathe in softly and breathe out a little longer, letting the shoulders settle into comfort. If this calm journey steadies you, you can like and subscribe so we can return to these soothing cadences together. We begin with a simple tilt and an elegant consequence. The changing of seasons is the planet's small bow, the lean of Earth's axis by just enough to share daylight differently across the months. That gentle inclination writes winter and summer, spring and autumn, not with hurry, but with patient light. As we imagine the globe turning under a sun that stays still, we notice our own breath finding its steady orbit. There is a lag in the year's warmth and coolness that feels almost like memory. The warmest stretch often follows the longest day, and the coldest arrives after the longest night. Ground and ocean hold heat the way a stone holds sun, slowly releasing it as weeks drift by. We let that thought linger and exhale, accepting that nature moves at the pace of stored light. Across continents, a larger pulse travels with the months. Monsoons are the breathing of land and sea, a seasonal trade of warmth, pressure, and moisture. In many places, summer winds lift water from the ocean and carry long trains of rain inland, while winter brings clearer, drier air in the opposite direction. The pattern is not a clock with rigid ticks. It is a broad inhale and exhale shaped by mountains, plains, and coasts. While we picture those vast lungs of air, we allow our own chest to rise and fall without effort. Far out over the largest ocean, quieter swings in surface warmth can change the world's stitching. A season of El Niño often shifts the pattern of rain and wind across many regions, while La Niña can tilt them back another way. These swings are not storms themselves, but background music that can nudge drought or flood, soften a winter in one place and sharpen it in another. We meet these names with soft curiosity, knowing that climate has its own long melodies. In high latitudes, twilight often stretches like a ribbon pulled thin. The sun's path stays low, sliding shallowly along the horizon and prolonging the gold at the edges of day. Even ordinary hills take on a glow, and shadows lengthen as if reluctant to leave. We can let our day lengthen in the same way, by taking one slow breath longer than before. Where night and day linger for weeks, the story is more nuanced than simple darkness or endless noon. Polar regions often live under long, gentle transitions, with the sun hovering just below or above the horizon, so that dawn and dusk blur into one another. Clouds can light from beneath at midnight, and snow can glow softly at midday. These places remind us that extremes also contain quiet middles, and we can rest in that middle for a moment, neither fully awake nor fully asleep. Deserts show another kind of rhythm, the quick give and take of heat in dry air. With so little moisture to hold warmth near the ground, daytime heat can slide away quickly after sunset, and night brings generous coolness. Rocks release stored energy, sand surrenders its warmth, and distance sharpens in the clear air. We imagine that relief arriving and let it cool our thoughts like a simple, kind wind. Cities add their own layer to the weather's weave. Pavement and walls gather sunlight during the day and return it slowly after dark, while parks and ponds offer islands of cooler air. Buildings steer breezes, canyons of street open and close like valves, and the shade of trees becomes a small climate of its own. When we step into a garden or beside water, we can feel this microclimate on our skin, a soft shift that invites the shoulders to drop. Coasts remember. Water changes temperature more slowly than land, and so shorelines often carry summer's warmth a little further into autumn, and hold spring's cool a little longer too. Sea breezes restore balance by day, and at night the land returns its breath to the water. This memory of the ocean makes for calmer transitions, like a long paragraph instead of a sudden line break. We take comfort in that pacing and match it with a patient inhale. Currents help write that memory across great distances. A warm stream in the ocean can travel for thousands of kilometers, bringing milder winters to places that would otherwise be sharper with cold at the same latitude far inland. In return, colder currents elsewhere can temper warmth and keep air clear and crisp. These rivers within the sea move slowly but steadily, and their kindness to coastlines can be felt in how often snow turns to rain or frost softens to dew. We hold this thought and let it soften us too. Mountains turn distance into time. Air cools as it rises, So every few hundred meters up, a slope can feel like a small change of season. A valley can hold spring while a nearby ridge wears the first hint of autumn. And a day's walk can travel not only across space, but across months. We picture the path stepping upward and our breath joins the cadence, one steady step in and one gentle step out. Open meadows speak often with fog. At night, a clear sky lets heat slip away from the ground, and exposed grasses cool more quickly than forests. Moisture condenses near the surface and paints the low land with a silent sea of mist, while trees at the edges stand like islands. In such mornings, distant sounds soften and colors turn to silver. While we hold that scene, we invite the muscles of the face to loosen as if that fog touched the brow. Spring storms have their own gentleness. Early in the warm half of the year, the air has not yet stored deep heat, and many storms are shorter and less intense, arriving like rehearsals for summer's full orchestra. Thunder speaks in small paragraphs, rain rinses dust from petals, and the world feels rinsed and new. We can treat our thoughts in the same way, as short showers that pass and leave clarity behind. Late autumn often gives us windows of stillness. Winds ease and thin frost writes quiet ferns on grass and panes, while the ground surrenders its warmth in calm air. The light is low, the sounds are close, and the days invite long cups and unhurried steps. This is the whisper before winter's sleep, and we can answer it by letting the breath become slower, like a page turned carefully. The times of day carry their own small seasons. Many places see the night's coolest touch just before dawn, when the ground has given back its warmth and winds near the surface have calmed. A few hours after midday, temperatures often reach their day's crest, lagging behind the peak in sun because earth and air need time to respond. After sunset, coolness flows downhill into hollows and quiet settles as if poured. We can feel these inner hours too and allow ourselves to move with them instead of against them. Moisture and memory travel side by side. Oceans take months to warm and months to cool, and this slow sway influences clouds, winds, and the timing of rains. Lakes can keep nearby towns mild well into autumn, and snow that covers a region can reflect sunlight and hold the cold in place for a while. These feedbacks are not commands. They are invitations for the season to linger, and many landscapes accept them. We accept them as listeners, content to wait. The sky has long rhythms beyond the year. Some patterns repeat every few years, some every decade or two, changing the odds of wet or dry, warm or cool. These are not promises, only tilts in the deck that farmers, fishers, and forecasters have learned to watch. Knowing that the climate breathes at many tempos can be calming, the way a lullaby carries both the beat and the long line. We return to our own steady line and notice the weight of the body deepening into the mattress. Even in places we think of as constant, gentle changes are always underway. Sea breezes pulse by afternoon and relax at night. High valleys trade warmth for starlight after sunset, and forests release moisture that rises to build afternoon clouds. On still days, these patterns are easier to see, like the slow tide in a sheltered cove. It is a comfort to know that calm does not mean lifeless. It means everything is moving in small ways that fit together. Weather and climate meet where memory meets the moment. A day of rain sits inside a season that is leaning toward wet or dry, and a warm afternoon in winter may still carry the long cool of the months around it. This context does not make any single day predictable. It makes the day part of a story with a beginning and a middle and a gentle turn to what comes next. We let our own day be part of its larger story, not judged, just held. We come back to the city for a breath. Asphalt gives heat back after sunset, but a line of trees along a river can trim a degree or two in the evening, making benches kind and sidewalks patient. Courtyards collect shade, fountains trade heat for a fine mist, and balconies keep company with breezes that find their way between walls. Even among buildings, the air has texture, and you can feel its kindness on your skin. On certain mornings after clear nights, distant hills appear closer than usual. Cool air pooled in valleys lifts with the sun, haze thins and edges sharpen. By midday, the horizon may grow soft again as warmth invites a faint veil to return. Seeing this, we learn that clarity and softness can take turns without conflict. Our thoughts can do the same, becoming crisp, then gentle, then crisp again. We gather what the seasons have whispered. The lean of earth brings light where it has been scarce and gives rest where it has been long. Warmth lingers after long days. A deep chill follows long nights. Continents and oceans breathe together in monsoon cycles, and the far Pacific rocks between phases that tilt rains near and far. In the north and south, daylight slides along the horizon, and deserts cool generously under dry, open skies. Cities compose their own small climates, while coasts carry the sea's slow memory. Warm currents ease winters along long stretches of shore. Every few hundred meters up a mountain can feel like another page in the year's book. Meadows fog more often than forests. Spring storms tend to be brief, and late autumn lays down frost with deliberate care. If you wish, you can take a slow breath in, pausing for the smallest moment at the top, and then let it flow out longer than it came in. The walls around you are steady, the night holds kindly beyond the window, and the planet's rhythms continue whether you watch them or rest. We will be here, keeping the quiet with you. As your eyes grow heavy, the year will keep turning on its gentle hinge, and the soft machinery of climate will hum in the background, a lullaby of light, wind, and time. Welcome back to a hush made of sky and air. We are here with you, unhurried, helping the mind fold into the night as the body settles. If this quiet suits you and you wish to return to it again, you can like and subscribe, and we will meet under calm clouds another evening. We begin with the rain because rain speaks in a language the nerves understand. Countless tiny drops share their sound so evenly that no single note stands out, and the result is a blanket of steady noise. Many people notice that this broad, even spectrum gently covers sudden clinks and distant doors, and drifting becomes easier. As we listen in our imagination, we can soften the jaw, loosen the brow, and let the breath grow longer on the way out than on the way in. Snow tells the city to whisper. Fresh snow is full of miniature pockets of air, a soft maze that catches sound and keeps it from bouncing back sharply. Sirens seem farther, tires hush, and even footsteps arrive as muted thuds. We picture the streets under a white hush and feel the shoulders descend a small distance toward warmth. When a weather front passes and pressure climbs, the sky often clears to a vivid blue that feels freshly polished. Dry, sinking air trims the haze, distant shapes gain definition, and sunlight arrives without the shimmer of moisture. We can imagine the window opening to bright clarity and for a moment smooth the breath to match that clean horizon. Evening carries its own messages in scent. The air that smells gently damp after sunset is telling us that temperatures have evened out and winds near the ground are relaxing. Pavement gives back the day's warmth, gardens breathe moisture upward, and the mix becomes soft and round. As you notice that imagined damp sweetness, you can let the chest rise once, pause for a heartbeat, and then tumble that breath out in a long, easy line. Dawn brings the first small chorus, and even birds seem to run quiet weather checks. Many species sing less boldly when pressure falls and rain is near, as if saving their energy for a softer day. A quieter edge to the morning music can be one of many signs that showers may arrive. We listen from a half-sleep and feel the comfort of being inside while the world considers whether to rinse itself. Animals at home hear these changes too. Cats and dogs sometimes drowse earlier before a storm, settling into sleep as if the living room were a safe den. Shifts in pressure and a rise in static can be part of what they sense, subtle signals that they answer with rest. While we picture a curled tail and slow breathing, we can let our own legs grow heavier under the blankets. Old barometers on bookshelves make gentle companions. When the little needle inches to the right, many houses feel steadier and skies often trend quiet. When it leans left, the day becomes more changeable and the kettle and lamp seem to draw us inward. These are not commands, only hints, and we can treat them as a permission slip for coziness. We might plan soup, a longer read, or simply an earlier night, and feel content with that choice. Light itself offers simple comforts. Under a leafy canopy, the speckles that reach the ground come from leaves and clouds sifting the sun into little coins that drift and merge. Watching these bright patches slide across a table or floor has the same trance as watching a small fire or ocean chop. A few minutes with that moving mosaic can reset the pace of thought, and we can try that now in our mind, noticing one slow inhale and one longer exhale. Fog has a painter's touch on streets we think we know by heart. In a warm mist, lamps lose their hard edges and gather halos. Curbs and corners soften and distance turns to watercolor. Sound also shortens, making the world feel smaller and kinder. With that picture in front of us, we can let the neck release its weight into the pillow. Night often leaves small clues on the sill. Dew beating on a cool surface by morning is a sign that the sky stayed clear enough for heat to slide away to space, and that the breeze near the ground did not worry the water back into the air. Such nights are quietly balanced, and dawn tends to arrive gentle. We hold that expectation the way we hold a warm mug, with both hands and no hurry. Sometimes the moon wears a simple ring. A pale halo around it comes when high, thin clouds are seeded with tiny ice crystals that bend light into a soft circle. It can mean that moisture is gathering in the upper air and that a blanket of higher clouds may visit tomorrow, or it may simply be an evening ornament. We can take it as a courteous heads up, like a neighbor leaving a light on the porch. Even puddles speak. If you watch the pattern of raindrops landing in a quiet pool, you may see perfect round ripples with clean, still spaces between them when the wind calms down. When a breeze nudges the surface, the rings tear and lean. So a moment of tidy circles can be a hint that the air is settling and that night will become more restful. Thinking of these tiny mirrors, we can let the breath fold into the rhythm, in, out, wait, and soften. Trees keep time. In the canopy, a regular cycle of rustle and lull often comes as gentle pulses, a kind of natural metronome. Without trying, many people find that their breathing follows, a little longer and a little deeper with each wave of leaves. We imagine that green ceiling above us, count 2 slow breaths, and feel the back sink a little further into the mattress. When weather chooses stillness, it can feel like the whole sky has draped itself over us. There is a special quiet in a night with no rain and no wind, when even distant traffic seems paused and only a faint hum of the city or countryside remains. On such nights, the atmosphere behaves like a vast quilt stretched from horizon to horizon, steady and kind. We let that image rest over us and release the hands from any work. A few small signs help us trust the calm. The smell of earth after a light sprinkle, the sharper blue of a high-pressure day, the crisp ring around the moon, the way birds edit their morning song when a shower is on the way, the way pets tuck in before thunder travels near. All of them are quiet notes in a score we can learn by ear. We do not need instruments to hear it, we only need to be unhurried for a moment. In that unhurried space, sleep often finds us first. There are comforts for the eyes as well as the ears. The gentle motion of light under leaves, the slow drift of a curtain in a barely open window, the even stripes of rain across a roof across the street. All of these can become anchors that keep the boat of attention from spinning. If you want, you can choose one image now, hold it lightly, and let the rest of the room fade. Pressure, moisture, and wind are the quiet crew of our nights. Rising pressure steadies the edges. A touch of evening humidity wraps sound and scent into one lullaby. A wind that slows near the ground after sunset lets coolness settle into hollows and courtyards, and with it comes a sense that the day's tasks can end. We thank them without speaking and accept the invitation to rest. Sometimes the most reassuring sign is the smallest. A droplet paused on the tips of grass along a curb, a branch riding a slow curve against a lamp. The faintest patter growing softer, then softer still, until it becomes memory. We agree to be small too, a quiet presence under a big, benevolent sky. If your mind wishes to measure, we can offer it a calm instrument. Imagine the old barometer again, the brass cool, the numbers worn, the needle leaning steadily toward fair. Watch it for a breath in, and in the longer breath out, let your thoughts lean in the same direction. Even if clouds are outside, the inner sky can be fair enough for sleep. We gather the thread now. Rain's even hush covers stray noises. Snow wraps the world in muffled softness. Clear, high-pressure air resets the distance. Damp evening scent hints at calm. Birds at dawn and pets at dusk rid the air in their own ways. An antique gauge points toward quiet choices at home. Dappled light soothes the gaze. Fog turns streets to pastel. Dew welcomes a gentle morning. A moon halo writes a high, icy note. Puddle rings telegraph a settling breeze, and tree crowns keep time until breath falls into step. When all is still, the sky itself becomes a blanket. You can take one more slow inhale, let your ribs widen comfortably, and then exhale so completely that the mattress rises to meet you. The room is safe, the night is kind, and the weather's small signs stand watch like soft lamps along a path. We will stay with you in this quiet, and as lids grow heavy and thoughts grow faint, the sounds and signs of the weather will continue their patient work, making the world gentler while you sleep.